Hello, I'm Chief Warrant Officer for Vic Pinion, U.S. Navy Retired, telling some of the sea stories from my naval career. This one is my last, end of my last sea period aboard the Oriskany, and the transfer and buying a new car and going across country and the adventures thereof, and arriving at the Naval Air Station, South Weymouth, Massachusetts. The ship was undergoing refresher training down off of San Diego. We were home ported in Alameda, California, but undergoing refresher training. Well, one of the problems going through refresher training was the man overboard drill. Most ships have a problem with that, especially aircraft carriers, was getting a good muster of everybody on board in a reasonable amount of time to find out who it was that fell overboard. Okay, well, we had failed the man overboard drills miserably, and but we passed just about everything else. It's just that the skipper was upset about us not being able to pass the man overboard. So we just stopped outside of Point Loma off San Diego and offloaded the refresher training group, some by helicopter, some by boats. But then the skipper decided, he just, after all the fleet training group people are gone, decided he'll do a man overboard drill right here, right now. And he did. And one man is missing. Well, it was common for him to grab a person and put him in an office someplace and, and see if they really did muster him as missing. Well, this man hadn't been grabbed by anybody, so we searched the ship for him, and they decided maybe he really did fall overboard. So they searched the surrounding seas for him for hours. Couldn't find him, so now we're going to go back up to Alameda. And we didn't leave there until, we weren't going to get home until midnight or so. Maybe 2 in the morning. And I'm going to transfer off the ship upon arrival. My bags are all packed, I'm all checked out and everything. And we searched that ship for this man several times. Finally, he came crawling out of his hidey hole where he had been sleeping. He had found an empty berthing compartment that had a big pile of mattresses in there, and he crawled in among them and went to sleep. And slept through all of the noise of trying to find him. But he delayed us getting home. My wife was going to meet me on the pier at 1400 in the afternoon. Well, here it is 12 hours later, and she had put the kids to bed at the neighbor's house. She had moved out of our apartment, and all of our household goods are gone, and just her and the kids in the car. They're going to meet me on the pier, and we're going to leave right from there, heading across country. Well, she had put the kids to bed, and she kept checking on it, and finally, at 2 in the morning, the ship tied up in the middle of the night like that. And I came off the ship with my sea bag on my shoulder, my AWOL bag in my hand, and there she was, driving around among all those parked cars on the pier. And I got in, and so we shared the stories, and we went back to the neighbor's house, and we went to bed at the neighbor's house, and we got up the next morning about 800 or so, and they fed us breakfast, and we started out across country. But we had bought a brand new car a couple of months earlier. We traded in a perfectly good car, just had a broken taillight lens that the kids playing ball, had the baseball had hit the taillight lens and broke it, and I'd gone to the dealer to get a new taillight lens. Well, they were just putting the brand new 1969 model cars on the showroom floor, and they had this American Motors Ambassador SST station wagon. Had wood grain paneling, it had the fold out of the way steering wheel. And, oh man, it's fancy. The salesman really talked it up. And so he gave me a bunch of the brochures for it, and I went home with my taillight lens. Showed my wife the brochure. She said, "Let's go buy it." Oh man, okay, we'll go look at it. So we went and we bought it. We traded our perfectly good car with the broken taillight lens, with the new taillight lens in the back seat, and all the money we had in the bank, about $1,000 for this new car, plus we're going to be making payments for the next 3-4 years. Anyway, a couple of weeks after we got that thing home, the chrome on the luggage rack is peeling, and then the wood grain plastic stick-on wood grain siding is peeling. I took it back to the dealer, and he said, "Well, it's not covered in the warranty, so he can't do nothing for me." Okay, so then after we got up from the neighbor's house, after I transferred off to Oriskany, we set out across country, and we get in the high Sierras, and our feet are freezing. Even though we had the heater on at full blast, and we discovered that the fresh air vent, they're just covers for the vents that you pull the lever and it opens and closes them, were the wrong ones for the car. They physically didn't fit the holes, so we couldn't shut them off. Well, we were angry about that, and so we made it on to a motel that night in Nevada, and we checked into the motel, and we went to bed and got a good night's sleep. Got up the next morning, there's 6 inches of snow on the ground, and the car wouldn't start. The automatic choke didn't work. So I get out there and I choking it manually with my fingers and my hands while she started it, and kept choking it with my hand, and sucking that ice cold air over my hands, freezing it. But we got it running and went on cross country. We got to Illinois. We visited relatives there, and I told my dad all about the woes with this car. And so we were going to go south and stop by Tennessee and visit my sister and her new husband and their baby. And from there we're going to proceed on south to Mississippi, visit relatives down there, then come back to Illinois. Then my family and I are going to head on over to Massachusetts, where I had show duty orders to report into the Naval Air Station at South Weymouth, Massachusetts. Well, we set out on our trip south through on I-55 through Illinois, and I stopped and refueled. And 20 miles later, my fuel gauge is reading quarter tank. Man, what's going on here? So I pulled off at a gas station, and the whole underneath back half of the car is soaked with gasoline. I got the service station man out there, and we looked at it, and the gas tank, where it's crimped together in the middle, had come uncrimped, and it opened a gap all the way around the gas tank about a ½ inch, and the gas had poured out. Well, the gas station man said he could fix that. He could put some sealer in there, and he could clamp it back together, and it would be good. Okay, so he did that, and I paid him, and we filled up with gas again and continued on our trip. Well, we visited my sister and her husband and their baby in East Tennessee, and had a good time there. And we went on. My dad wants to take this shortcut around Knoxville from I-55 to I-40. It's a 2-lane highway going through the mountains. I mean, it's switchback city going up and down these mountains. And delayed us. It was no shortcut. Like you've heard stories about shortcuts that turn into a nightmare. Well, this is one of them. These switchback curves going up and down these mountains, I mean, deteriorated down to little 2-lane gravel, little 1-lane even gravel roads, and where you could get up to 10 miles an hour sometimes, you know. Well, we made it on across there, and we made it on to Mississippi. Well, we visited relatives in Mississippi and had a good time. Then we returned. My dad told me He said, you know, Vic, I'd get rid of this car if I was you. You're throwing good money after bad by keeping it, because it's going to keep on breaking down. Well, I agree with him. And he told me he'd been dealing with a Chevy dealer in Sycamore, Illinois. Well, there was this brand new cars are out, and I'd seen a brand new Buick that I liked. So I went to the Buick dealer to trade my new station wagon in on a new Buick. Well, the new Buick dealer showed me a magazine article where my car, the very model that I had, was the worst lemon in the world for that year. And he told me, he said, I'd be happy to sell you a good car, but I don't want that one. Okay, so I went to the Chevy dealer where my dad dealt, and he knew all about it too. And he said, well, he said, but because your dad's a good customer and I do business with him and some other family members, he says, I'll give you what you've got invested in it, but no more for that station wagon. And then I'll sell you a good car. He said, my son gets a new car every 3 years, and he just traded. And his old car is a good Chevy Impala. So he said, I'll make you a good deal on it. So he did. And I bought the Impala. And we drove on to Massachusetts. And I kept that Impala for 8 years. I finally sold it to a crew member from my first tour duty as a warrant officer many years later, 8 years later, for $100. And I'll tell that story later. But that's the end of that transfer across country story from the Midway. From the Oriskany across country to Massachusetts.